if they would have been, I bet you 10% better, we would not be in this situation right now. We would probably have Kamala Harris as the president-elect, because most people are willing to swallow a lot of shit. You know what I mean? Like, we all have our own problems, all of our own stuff, but they went so in on all of the lies. The fact that Barack Obama, 2 days before the election, gave a speech, I think it was in Wisconsin, where he said that Donald Trump went to a white supremacist rally and said there were very fine people on both sides. The fact that he ran with that hoax again after it has been debunked
by people who wouldn't debunk it unless it was seriously not true.
I think the first time that got to mainstream media was me on Real Time, because James Carville brought it up with Maher, and I had never heard it said on mainstream, and I wasn't going to let him get away with it. And I said, what are you talking about? The next sentence out of his mouth was, but I'm not talking about the white supremacists and the neo-Nazis who should be condemned entirely. But Carville literally crumbles to the table because he did not know what to do when confronted with reality. And then Bill said, well, it was worded inarticulately or something to that effect. And I thought, well, that's an interesting way of playing a little bit of cleanup on that. But the point is, they thought, I think Obama, what would your psychological analysis of Obama be right there? It's 2 days before the election. He either believes it, which there's no way he could be that dumb and ignorant, simply impossible. But maybe you want to give him 5% chance. You want to give him 5%? What do you want to give him on that? Let's give him 20%, right? Okay, great, 20%. So he's unbelievably dumb and ignorant, and he ran the speech by nobody who's willing to confront him with reality. Or what would the only alternative be? He knows he can lie. It doesn't matter how big the lie is. And he thinks the lie will accomplish the goal, that the ends justify the means. I think they got to the end of that road. I think that's what this election was. You cannot tell us that there are very fine people on both sides. You can't tell us that Brett Kavanaugh is a serial rapist, or that the Covington kids are racist, or that Kyle Rittenhouse is a white supremacist. I mean, we could do a million versions. That 6-foot social distancing was scientifically backed. And I think that's actually what this election was about. It really, Trump then became the avatar that was sort of wrapped around that thing. And then Kamala basically became the avatar for the machine.
We talked too about the fact that in the last month, a lot of radical things happened around Trump the last month.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the fact that this weird coalition gathered around him, which is, completely preposterous. It's completely preposterous that Elon Musk is now going to be running the Department of Governmental Efficiency, and that has the same acronym as Doge. That was a coin, and it's a funny dog, and it's do only good every day. It's like, what the hell is going on here? It's ridiculously comical that Musk is actually an X-Man, because that's the name of his platform, and that idea has been obsessing him for years, and that Gabbard is on board, and that Robert F. Kennedy came along, and that Vance is along, and so is Vivek Ramaswamy. I mean, these are very unlikely Republicans, very unlikely. And so that's weird as hell. And it's like, seriously, surreally, this is Pulp Fiction weird. It's
so what
really
do you think the unifying principle is? To me, it's that they love America. Like, that's sort of like you would say, low resolution bumper sticker.
Yeah. I think it's analogous in some ways on the political side to what happened with the media, the new media that we were describing. There wasn't anything really that we had in common. Let's say you and I, or Weinstein, or Rogan, Shapiro, like that was a very diverse group of people.
It was free speech in the most, in the essence.
It was. Well, I think the thing we had in common essentially was our approach to discourse.
Yeah.
That was really all.
Yeah.
I mean, each of us taken in pairs had things in common, but it was devotion to discourse, open discourse, conversational discourse, essentially.
Yeah.
And in a sense, on agenda-free conversational discourse. I mean, one of the things that makes Rogan so perennially popular is that he's just trying to figure out what's going on. And that really is the case. Yeah. And Rogan, that what you see is what you get. All the people in that group are exactly the same on camera and off. Yeah. Exactly. There's no persona. They're just exactly who they are. And all of those people were and are iconoclastic, right? They didn't fit well in organizations. They all started their own thing. Mm-hmm. And that's really the same thing that's characteristic of these people that have gathered around Trump. And then, as we alluded to, we also have this other strange occurrence, which is the death throes of the legacy media. Most Douglas Murray, I talked to him the other day, and he said, well, don't throw all of the legacy media under the bus. There is the New York Post, for example. The Fox News people are trying to do their best. And,
Sure.
you have the Free Press with Barry, but that's new media too. Mm-hmm. So by and large, the liberal end of the legacy media have doomed themselves to perdition because they got partisan and deceitful. Look, and they were also willingly blind because they didn't pay attention to the new media at all.
Well, nobody could be that bad at their job. No janitor could be so horrible at his job and still have a job the next day. Joe Scarborough lies every day. He sits in a chair at MSNBC at a giant corporation to lie. Somebody up there, I don't know who his boss is, but somebody up the chain of the corporation knows that he's lying about all of these things. They know that Joy Reid is in essence a neo-racist, or that Rachel Maddow spent 3 years relentlessly lying about vaccines and COVID. So what people, I think, have to understand is they're paid to lie.
Well,
they are well paid to push a particular narrative.
Part of the difference with the old media, let's say, the corporate media, and the new media is that those organizations are corporations, and the people that you see are the front men for the organization.
Exactly.
They're not investigative. They're not independent investigative journalists. Now, I know you claim that that you're not a journalist, and technically that's true, but that's the roughest equivalent because I don't know, apart from podcaster, I don't know what the definition is. So
yeah, I would. It's something like I'm trying to translate the nonsense, but that's not a
talk show host.
Yeah, I'm a talk show. I'm a talk show host. Yeah, whatever Phil Donahue was. That's what I am.
Well, that's that's right. That's right. Yeah. That's what I'm doing with my podcast too. They're talk shows.
But why is it then that for the last let's say starting when COVID started, like that day, all of the hoaxes that we've all been through, why is it that I didn't fall for any of them? Why is it that my track record, I get political predictions wrong all the time. I thought DeSantis could win the primary. I have no problem admitting that. I thought there was a different way the Republicans could go. And by the way, I'm thrilled with the result. I couldn't be happier. I fought for Trump and all that stuff. So putting aside political predictions, why is it that I didn't screw up why didn't I fall for all of the hoaxes? Why when the Jussie Smollett thing came out and they said that two black guys, or that he was lynched by two guys with MAGA hats who said this is MAGA country, and it turned out to be these black brothers that he paid. Why is it that I didn't immediately fall for the hoax? Yeah, Kamala Harris immediately tweeted out that this proves we're a white supremacist nation, and I think that's still I think that tweet is still up. Why is it that MSNBC fell for every hoax? Why is it that I didn't fall for all of the COVID hoaxes? By day 15, I thought, okay, 2 weeks to stop the spread. We're done now. And now they've moved on to something else. It's not because I'm some kind of genius. Why did you not fall for all these hoaxes? Why did Rogan not really fall for all these hoaxes? And everyone, I'd say to some degree, we all got screwed up by COVID in some ways. And, I think you've even said that you got, I think I did your first interview back after your health stuff, and you said that you got vaxxed, and you thought the whole idea was now the government, if I can quote you directly, was leave me the fuck alone.
Yeah. That is what I thought. I thought, okay.
And it's interesting. I remember thinking when you said that to me on air, I thought, that's interesting because I never thought that. I thought if I do it, they'll never leave me alone. And I think that actually turned out to be more true in some
definitely.
sense.
100%. Yeah,
but what is it about us then?
Well, I think partly we put our finger on it with regard to the fact that you don't have a whole corporation behind you composed of people and advertisers that are all thinking the same thing and purveying the same message, right? So you can go out and scavenge for information. That's the other thing too, is the information environment that surrounds you. This is a point they made on MSNBC. Yeah. I think it was the guy who runs Axios, who was the commentator. I think we're going to probably clip that into this show. He pointed out that, people who are on the cutting edge of the technological world, let's say the online media world, they're information scavengers. Like I gather information from, I'm on X a fair bit, but I gather information from a lot of different sources. It's not an easy thing to do. And so the information pipeline that you have isn't a legacy media monolith by any stretch of the imagination. And I think a lot of these people, the charitable interpretation is rather than being outright purveyors of falsehoods, they're in an ecosystem where it's like a monoculture. Everybody thinks the same thing.
Right. It's like a fish swimming in water that's so polluted, a tank that's so polluted that he can't see right in front of him, even though his memory is short anyway, but now he literally can't see where he's swimming. I mean, think about it. How is it that why is it that I did a video in 2019, people can find it, saying Joe Biden has clearly the beginnings of dementia or something cognitively wrong with him? 2019. Again, I'm not a doctor. I was just watching the videos like everybody else. I watched the corn pop video.
But how much time do you spend every week looking at media information?
No, an awful lot.
Well, how much?
I mean, I would say I'm definitely within the X Twitter ecosystem a couple hours a day. So that's a pretty significant amount of time. I try not to do it on the weekends. You know, I do my August off the grid thing, which I think also has helped me stay sane throughout this, because I get out of the hamster wheel basically, once a year for 8 years now. But the Biden cognitive issue, they lied and lied and lied, and they kept saying, "Don't see what you see," and he's still president right now.
I know, it's unbelievable.
Although something seems to have turned on, because I think he's starting to realize, man, he's got a legacy and he can figure it out in the next 2 months. And I think his legacy, if he's smart, and I don't know what's left of him, but if Jill and whoever else is around him that has sense with them, they have an incredible opportunity right now, and I hope they'll take this. The opportunity is, you have no reason to placate to the left. You were brought in because you were old Joe the moderate. You weren't crazy Bernie. You weren't Elizabeth Warren. You weren't one of the radicals. You governed like one of them. They took advantage of you. But now they clearly tried to screw you by forcing him out. He's basically said that. I mean, that's what he said on The View, that they forced him out. He thought he was going to win. So we'll find out what happened there one day, because eventually the truth will come out. But what an interesting moment he has right now. He has 2 months to say, I have no reason to play with you children anymore, and I can build a legacy. So what could my legacy be? Well, maybe Donald Trump's not Hitler. And maybe I could do a few things like, I don't know, maybe somehow winding down some portion of the Iraq war, or helping Israel win their war, getting our hostages back, the American hostages, if not the Israelis, or maybe doing something about the border, which they are doing a little more now. He has an interesting moment right now where his legacy could be, he took us to the precipice of hell. He got taken advantage of, right? They'll write about it one day. But then right there, when he had a moment, the 2 months between administrations, he did something right. And I don't think that's complete. A lot of people are saying I'm nuts for that. But if you were Joe Biden, and again, we don't know what's really in his mind or what he's capable of cognitively at this point, but wouldn't that be a pretty good ending to the story?